So for those who are very conversant with graduate school application, study abroad application, you would actually have come across this particular conversation that we want to have today. You would have come across certain concepts, certain terms. You would have heard that this is what your school would likely require. Do not forget that we are focusing on the requirements of the school this month, right? And so for today, we are talking about the standardized test. Before I go into the video, please like, please share. Please do not forget to comment how this video helped you or the kind of insight it gave you as well. Do not also forget to subscribe. So thank you very much. And now the video. So in every setting, in every, let's say in a workplace, let's say in the world at large, there is something that you are measured against. There is something you are tested against. So like in the workplace, you could have something like the end of the month evaluation or reviews where they test you against certain criteria that have been laid out before time in that workplace. As well, in your studies, you could say, oh, this is my target for the month. So you are going to be reviewing yourself according to that standard that you have said. This is what I want to achieve for this month. That is your standard. That is what you want to measure yourself against. Now, in graduate college or generally in study abroad processing, if you want to apply to study abroad, there is something known as the standardized test. The standardized test is a test that you get to write to prove whether you have, let's say, the critical ability, the language skills, and most likely the reasoning skills. There are different measures that you are measured against. For example, we have, and I'm sure you're very familiar with this, there is the GMAT, there is the GRE, there is the TOEFL, and there is the IELTS. Now, these different tests have different meaning, different things that you are measured against, different connotations. For example, the GRE, which is the Graduate Records Examination, checks you for your critical thinking, checks you for your verbal reasoning, and checks you for how you can speak, how you can solve mathematical questions, right? The GMAT, on the other hand, does the same thing too, except that GMAT is for a different category of graduate students. Now, the TOEFL, the IELTS, is for language tests. It's like a test that you write to show that you speak well in English language, you read well in English language, you can listen, that's you can hear, you can comprehend the English language as well as write the English language. There are different measures, there are different scores that if you have, you say you passed this test or you did not pass this test or you are somewhere near average, right? Now that is what the standardized test is all about. Let's talk about the GRE versus the GMAT. The GRE has three sessions you must be aware of. There is the analytical session, there is the verbal reasoning session, and there is a quantitative session. The analytical session is a session where you get to answer very critical questions. You just get to see how you think about situations, your flow of thoughts. The verbal reasoning session has open-ended. It's like the verbal reasoning that we did in primary school, like just answer open-ended questions, like fill in the gaps. They have different methods or to answer that. Then there is a quantitative session. The quantitative session typically gives you mathematical questions. So for those who did further maths, you may have an upper hand. For those who were mathematics lovers, you would likely have an upper hand, right? The GMAT is also the same thing, except that it has an extra session, which is known as the integrated session. So the time it takes to complete both the GMAT and the GRE is the same, 3 hours, 30 minutes. For the GRE, it's very important for you to note that there are no calculators allowed. And I think it also goes for the GMAT too. The GMAT is the Graduate Management Admission Test. So it's very important for you to know the difference. For the GRE, your score, the maximum score you can have is about 320. And then the GMAT, the score you can have is 800. Like I said, they have different testing measures. So it's very important for you before you register for these exams to read and find out which one suits what you want. Now let's talk about what suits what. The GRE is an exam that you write for all graduate programs. So every graduate program could likely, accept the GRE, including law, including business programs. However, the GMAT is specifically mostly for the graduate business program. So for people doing MBA, this is likely the exams that you're going to write. But people going for general course that does not really in the realm of the MBA, the GRE is for you. Easy or difficult? I would say that the GRE or the GMAT, none is easy, none is difficult. However, there are certain misconceptions that people could likely have. You may think that because you've prepared well for the GRE means that you could automatically go to write the GMAT. No, people prepare for these things differently. You prepare for the GRE very differently. You also prepare for the GMAT differently, giving it your full focus, your full concentration, because you are not even aware of the kinds of questions that will likely come out of it. And they are actually very different settings, very different things that they look out for, very different criteria. So there is no very easy one and there is no very hard one. It just depends on the context where you want to apply this. It just depends on what is actually required of you and the course that you want to go for. So it's very important that you consider what course you want to go for, because remember I said the GRE can be applied to all graduate programs, but the GMAT is specifically for those going for professional courses or MBA programs. Now the IELTS and the TOEFL. The IELTS and the TOEFL are language tests. It's very important for you to know that because you are, moving to a different country, because you want to further your academics, there is the notion that you have to at least be able to communicate in the English language, because this is a language that is used to communicate mostly there. And so if you're from a country that does not speak English, it's very, very important that you write this test. But here is the thing, not everybody, some people can speak, some people may write well, some people may listen well. So it differs, right? And these two exams, the TOEFL, the IELTS, are used in very different contexts. For example, TOEFL is more, US based, like the universities in the United States accept TOEFL more, while the IELTS are accepted in countries like the UK, I think Canada, Australia, and countries like that. So you also need to check out what country you're going for and what the university requires of you. TOEFL, on the one hand, your score or the maximum score you can have on it is about 120, while the IELTS do not score numerically. They rather score in what we call bands. So they have about band 1 to band 9. And depending on your score, think from band 7 to about band 9 is determined to be high scores. Also, depending on what the university requires. Note that the IELTS is in two places. There is the academic IELTS and there is a general testing IELTS. But for the TOEFL, it's just one. There are no two types. Also, depending for something like the IELTS, the TOEFL, your university may say for reading, we want this particular score. For writing, we want this particular score. So you just need to determine how you want to write it and what your university requires. But if you've already written it, that's like the trick here. If you've written this exam before you start applying, you would have to find universities that favor the score you have. And if you've not written it, then it's very important for you to have an idea of the kind of scores that you should be aiming for when you write it. For all these exams, GRE, GMAT, IELTS, TOEFL, your dates, the timeline to write it is dependent on you. Your exams can be scheduled by you. You can do that online at the ets.org. Your exams can be scheduled online, basically. You can reschedule, you can cancel, but I think there is a limit to that. So be very careful how you reschedule and how you cancel your test dates. Let's talk about how you can tackle the analytical session in the GRE. The GRE analytical session has two parts. There is the issue essay session as well as the argument session. These two sessions, even though they look alike, they are actually different. The issue essay session looks into how you are able to organize your thoughts, how you are able to write an essay, how you're able to introduce yourself, how you're able to talk about the points that you want to raise, how you talk about how you reason about that thing, right? But the argument essay, it's a critical essay that you get to write. It's sort of searches your mind, how you bring out your points, how you analyze it, how you're thinking about that issue very critically. Are you on the opposing side? Are you on the for side? Are you somewhere in between? If you are in between, how are you judging these matters? That is what the argument session is all about. Now, talking about the verbal reasoning session, the verbal reasoning session comprises of three sections. It has a text completion, it has a statements or sentence equivalent, and it has the reading comprehension. So you have the place where you get to show them if you can read this thing, if you can understand, and if you can fill in the gap in these sessions. While the quantitative sessions strictly is the mathematical, the calculation part of this. But mind you, you do not even get to take in a calculator into the exam hall. How do you crush these tests? The first is make a study plan. You can never go wrong with planning. You can never go wrong with knowing the dates that are important to you. What dates do you want to write this exam? Now, let's say your school opens their portal in August. Do you want to write this exam before August? Do you want to already have your results at hand before that time? Do you want to write it when the universities have opened their portals for application? So you need to check out these things. If you want to write it before, when? My advice is to write it around May, June, or July. It's very important because by then your results will be out. And we don't hope you receive, but if you plan to receive, but you would already have an idea that you want to receive and you can quickly book for another sitting. Secondly, is select good materials. There are different materials that you can use to prepare. There is Kaplan, there is Princeton, there is Prep Scholar. You can also go to ets.org. ets.org would literally have some of these materials for free there. And then you can also take free practice tests. Practice tests would never lie. At least you have an idea of the key concepts. It helps you to already practice your critical thinking, your analytical thinking. It already helps you to understand how to answer certain mathematical questions and quizzes, right? Also, 30% learn concepts and 70% practice. By practicing, you are reading, you are practicing, you are answering questions. 30% concept. So don't spend all your time learning the concepts. Practice more. The more you practice, the more you get better, the more you get a hang of it. Also, practice your time frame. The to write this exam is about 3 hours, 30 minutes for the GRE GMAT. For the IELTS and TOEFL, I think it's about 3 hours plus too. So you can also practice your time, how you use your time and things like that. Let's have real conversations. What does this score say about you? If you score low, does it mean that you do not have the aptitude to do graduate studies? If you score high, does it mean you are very intelligent? I don't know what you think about that, but here is my answer. No, it doesn't determine anything. That you know how to speak English language better than another person, or that you passed well in your writing test, your listening test, doesn't mean that you are, you know, more intelligent or more versed than someone else. However, if you did not pass, it also doesn't mean that you are, not up to the task. Actually, you may be up to the task. Graduate schools tend to look for your resilience as much as your intelligence or as much as your documents. They also get to look at your preparations. How well prepared is this person to take up this task? Because graduate school is not easy, right? It is easy, but also you've got to put in the work. So, my point here is if for any reason you venture in to write the GRE, the GMAT, the IELTS, or the TOEFL, and you feel like you did not do well, please do not look down on yourself because you are actually more than that test. And here is the very sweet thing about it. Not all schools require you to write the GRE. Actually, after the COVID year, most schools have started waiving it. Also, because the prices to write this tests are very high. You might be looking at $220 plus. So, most schools now are understanding the financial implications of this test and also understanding that these tests are not true criteria for testing one's readiness to study, one's readiness to go through the rigorous processes of being in the graduate school or even holding a research position in the graduate school. So because of this understanding, most schools are waiving it. So here is my tip. If you cannot write this test, or if you feel like the money is a lot, please look for universities that will waive the GRE for you. But if your university compulsorily asks for it and you want to go to that university, then prepare to write the test. But before you go in to write the text, make sure you do all the pre work before you go in. And I hope that you have a successful GRE exam results, GMAT, IELTS, and TOEFL results. I hope these videos have been helpful. Please like, please share, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much and see you in my next video. Bye.